Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, The Wire Remixed Season 1, Episode 12, Cleaning Up. As always, I'm joined by one Robert Sapp.
Yo, how you doing?
Good. Cannot complain. Before we get started, I just want to let the audience know that we are definitely aware of what's going on in the world today. I don't want to make it seem like we're by any stretch ignoring that or not giving it is just attention. We hope to kind of take your mind off it for next hour or so to discuss for a little entertainment, but definitely well aware and cognizant of what's going on. So I implore everybody out there to take care of yourself mentally as well as physically. This episode was a one of my top 7, 8 episodes of all time. Vulture ranked it 11th all time, directed by Vulture. The magazine Vulture, online magazine, ranked it 11th all time. Directed by Clement Virgo. A lot of these shows, in terms of our favorite shows, this is the episode that a lot of times is the most powerful and the best episode of the season, the second to last. You can look at Sopranos, Breaking Bad, if you're a fan of Mad Men, and The Wire is no different. A lot of times this second to last episode was the one that felt kind of like a finale, but kind of like a finale, and definitely had some of the most hard-hitting material. This episode was no different. Opening scene, you have Daniels and McNulty in the hospital. McNulty is still somewhat feeling guilty or feeling sorry for himself, and he at this point has yet to visit Greg's in the hospital. Has yet to visit her in her room. So Daniel's basically like, look, you can go visit her or work the case or continue to work the case. The bottom line is this case is going to go on with or without you. McNulty, basically wants to give this plea of it was never about Avon Barstow. It was always about me and it was always about me and me proving myself in terms of being the smartest guy in the room and shit like that. Daniel's like, no shit. We all knew that from the start. But the bottom line is we got that good police with a tube in her nose, a tube in her throat or in her nose, and whoever, Daniels is all in. Daniels is at this point, he is all in, and we'll find out throughout the course of this episode how committed Daniels is. It was a big episode for Daniels. So Daniels basically is like, look, just work the case or keep it moving. Basically, like it's, he's not trying to hear any McNulty shit whatsoever. And you have that going on with that particular scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like to just piggyback off of what you said about the penultimate episode being some of the best. This like a reason why I think that is, particularly for really good shows, is because this is the time where all the payoffs start to happen, right? And so we've been talking about McNulty this entire season and his motives for doing the things that he's doing, and like our thoughts and our opinions on all of that. What I really appreciated about the scene is that they named everything that we were talking about. The character named it for himself, and so that's the sign of good writing and a lot of good stuff. Is that all the moments feel earned. And so even though McNulty is like in the midst of self-pity, he's throwing himself a pity party, we get why he's doing the things that he's doing, and we get why he's feeling this type of way, because they built up and led up to this moment the entire series.
Yeah, no question about it. I also think that shows, the great shows, when they'll use a finale to kind of lead you into the next season. So it's a tricky spot with the finale because they're trying to, like, if they have a season coming up, especially at the beginning of this series. This is season 1. So if they have another season coming up, they want to give you some stuff in the final episode that leads you into season 2. That and some of that setup stuff. So they're already beginning some of the setup for that. They're already beginning to lay some of those seeds for the following season. So yeah, no question that to your point about McNulty and Daniels. You have D'Angelo, Bodie, Pooh, and Stringer. So they're down the pit, and you have Stringer come down there and collect all the pagers. You have him dismiss Pooh, basically tell him, get the fuck out of here. He gives Stringer gives Bodie and D'Angelo cell phones, gives them numbers, lets Bodie know, lets D'Angelo know why that there's no drugs, that of course the main stash has been hit by the cops, and says, basically says it in a kind of like, he kind of said it in an arrogant way, like he kind of said it in a way that was demeaning to D'Angelo, like, why the fuck you think we're switching up? Kind of was like annoyed with D'Angelo for even kind of asking that question. That's kind of vibe that I got. So he gives them new directions, gives them cell phones, and basically says, hey, remember these numbers for muscle, for re-up, for others, I forgot what the third thing was. It was muscle, re-up, and something else. Muscle, re-up, and get in contact with Stringer, or with him directly. He says, remember the numbers, remember those, and get rid of them. They're strictly for business, not for anything but business. So you have Bodie clearly has the eye of Stringer, the fact that he got a cell phone. That kind of jumped out to me about that scene, and also his kind of demeanor, his kind of like his annoyance with D'Angelo. What were your thoughts?
This is it. Yeah. So it's the scene itself is talking about just kind of like how the group like switches up and like everything like that. But to your point, the main part of this scene, the reason why this scene exists is to show what is going on energy wise between Stringer and D'Angelo. And that it'll play itself out, of course, in a couple of scenes after this. But again, we're talking about the penultimate episode. We're talking about episode 12. This is where all the payoffs happen for the entire season. And so Stringer hasn't been feeling D'Angelo for as long as we've known Stringer and D'Angelo up until this point. And so this is another indication of how big a rift there is between the two of them.
And also not a data boy, but basically just showing you that Bodie is moving up in the ranks by getting a cell phone.
Yeah, we could talk about this a little bit later.
Yeah, we can.
But what I will say is what has been so very clear to me this season and watching it this time around is Stringer's making a lot of different plays for the number one spot. And one of those plays is he's straight up using Bodie. He's used Bodie this entire season.
Yeah, no question about it. Freeman, Charlene McNulty, they have Charlene with Inside the Detail. She gets new contact lenses. You also see, I guess you want to call it somewhat flirtation with Freeman and Charlene. He gets her some coffee and what have you. Basically, Bumgard. He basically Brody's signature. They says, you know, I got it. You know, knows how she likes her coffee, and basically says to her, with McNulty present, you know, the time will come when she is ready to step up. And of course that sets up some a myriad of things down the road. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a setup scene. This is just setting up for things that are gonna happen.
Avon, Levy, and Stringer meet at the club, which of course is closed down as of now. Is down. They have shut it down. Um, they're discussing loose ends. This meeting was dictated basically by Levy. This gives you some insight on how much Levy was a part of their organization and really how cold-blooded he was. He basically says you need to cut ties with anything that can hurt you. They mentioned names. They mentioned everybody's name with the exception of Wallace, but we know Wallace is on the chopping block, but they don't. They leave his name out. They mention Lakeisha Lyles. They talk about people that they've already taken care of. Little Man, of course, has already been taken care of, but by Weebay, and they're just kind of trying to figure out things moving forward. Avon is annoyed at the beginning of the scene. It kind of stood out to me watching it this time around. He says Stringer says something was real, something to that extent, and Avon said all this shit is real. So I don't like Avon is in not panic mode, but Avon's seen what's coming down the pike. Like Avon, he knows how much they're on to him, and he knows that he's feeling the heat. So he basically says, "Hey, all this is real," and then they go about the conversation of who they're gonna get rid of.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump on something that you just said right there when you were like with Wallace. It was like you like they didn't talk about Wallace on the hit list, and it seems minor, but it's not at all because like this will get into like my central thesis on Stringer, and so the biggest play that Stringer made was this. I mean, in this entire season is he's dividing the youngins or putting not even putting a wedge. He's sectioning off a group of people who are going to follow him and him only. And so Bodie's number one on that list, of course. And then so the reason why they don't discuss Wallace on the hit list is because Avon doesn't care about Wallace. He don't have no thoughts about Wallace. Wallace is not somebody that's in his purview at all, like zero. Like Avon, you've never heard Avon talk about Wallace. Avon doesn't care about Wallace, anything like that. And Stringer doesn't care about Wallace in the way that it might be presumed that he might be a snitch. Stringer wants to tie Bodie to him. And if you think about it in the old mafioso kind of like terms, like the way that you get yourself in place to be made is that you make your bones and that you kill somebody first. So anyway, but there's a tying to that. There's a reason why the mafia does that, and it's so that you have killed for them, therefore you have a murder charge right over your head, like you're 10 toes in. And so that's what Stringer is manipulating right now, is how to get Bodie as someone who be linked to him. But yeah. Stringer wants to hit on Wallace, and he wants to hit on Wallace for Bodie.
Yes, no question about it. Burrell Daniels. So, and also there was another. I think the Major Reed was in there as well. So this is the first of 3 meetings with Burrell and Daniels over the course of the episode. In this one, you have Daniels, they're talking about the case, and Daniel and Darrell basically wants Daniels, wants him, of course, to wrap it up. Says that he doesn't need as many as he doesn't need the amount of manpower right now moving forward. So he decides which guys go back and which guys he keeps. Now, Daniels plays this beautifully, as in comparisons to, say, a McNulty in previous episodes. He absolutely basically keeps his mouth shut for the most part, and in that he keeps the personality, the exact personality he wanted to keep. He wanted to keep Prez. He wanted to keep Freeman, and he kind of gives a wry smile at the end of that scene. I thought it was brilliant by Daniels. It's a lesson in life. Sometimes a lot of times, silence is power. Shut the fuck up and just observe and just take in what you're receiving. And Daniels wins round 1 against Burrell. What were your thoughts?
Yep. And then so everything you said, and then like I'll add my 2 cents. This is, I think, like the structure of this scene and the scenes that are going to come after them, like you said, this is one of many conversations, is also a intro into this is now they're beginning the big time introduction of politics into all of this. So this is step 1 of the big time introduction in this episode.
No question about it. Perfect segue, because you have Perlman in the state's attorney's office, state's attorney Demper, and she's thrown off guard because he's asking her why are campaign funds being investigated. She has no idea that this is going on. She's thrown for a loop. They basically say, well, Demper basically says, hey, and it was another gentleman in the room with them as well. I don't think his character was named, but basically tell Perlman, hey, we're good, we're clean, you can check it, we are reassuring you that we're doing things on the up and up. But the big part of this, again, this is pushing the political aspect, the campaign, the Barksdale money, that gets pushed a lot in this particular episode. But Perlman is just thrown off by this. Just doesn't know. Almost didn't even know how to respond to this questioning by the state's attorney. And remember, with Perlman walks on eggshells with her spirits because Perlman is very ambitious. She wants to move up in the world. So her anxiety, in terms of, you saw it last episode with Levy. Levy is despite how crooked he is a powerful figure in that world. So Perlman didn't want to piss him off. So this is even double. She even has more reverence for the state's attorney. So she doesn't want to piss him off. So Perlman's kind of, like I said, was thrown off by the questioning. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is another. Of course, they're building to this, and so like this is another building block in that. More importantly, as we'll find out, is that they traced the illicit money and gave it back, which is a big deal. In terms of like why somebody would do that, which kind of lets the viewers know that this whole beyond the money thing is real. In terms of not only just like who gets captured into it, but the consequences of it. And so I think all Permanent is reacting to the very real consequences of pulling all of these records.
Yeah, and it's a road that she does not want to go down. Let's make that clear.
I mean, it wanting to go down. See, where I love that we start this episode off, and I mean, like it's of course 1000% intentional with McNulty admitting all of his faults, because our I, as the viewer, have shaped by McNulty's opinions of people. And so the fact of the matter, she didn't know. She didn't know any of this. So she is blindsided, regardless of if she would want to do it or not, if they had a conversation. The fact is they never had a conversation about this, and there was no process of proceeding. Nobody likes to be blindsided with, like, this is what happened. Why are y'all doing this? Like, wait, hold on. I didn't have any knowledge of this at all. So I say that to say life is like that. McNulty's the one who's running around like a bull in a china shop, trashing everything down. Everybody else is operating normally. Like, you don't just go in and start shouting things to your bosses. Like, that's not a thing that happens. You don't go behind people's back and try to, cut them out at the knees over their heads to different people and everything like that. Now, if you be successful at your career, McNulty defines success very weirdly. And so that's how we're defining success with him. But everybody else is playing by the real world rules and how you work through a bunch of different things. And so I have a little bit more to say on it in the Daniel situation, but the part where everybody, I think the viewers, me, you, the characters, everybody's on the same page right now, is that McNulty's way is not the right way. Even McNulty knows this now and says that very loudly and clearly at the beginning of this episode. That's not to take the onus off of the other characters, but just running around shouting and yelling and trying to get other people on your side just because you want to be right is not the right way either.
No. D'Angelo, Avon, Stringer. D'Angelo meets Avon Stringer at the club in Avon's office. They ask him about Wallace and his whereabouts. D'Angelo tells them, hey, just, leave him. D'Angelo asked them, I should say, not demands, basically says, he's out the game. And then, he's okay, he's out the game, leave him be. And he could sense that I don't know if he believed at that point that they were going to kill him.
He definitely did. Okay. He definitely believed.
Right. But he
knew what that entire conversation was about.
Yeah, he got that sense. Well, I'm glad you bring that up, because I have some questions about that later on in terms of how his handling of Wallace. So I'm put a bookmark next to that comment. So he gets that energy that they want him going, that they want Wallace going, and Avon in this scene is not. We know Stringer wants Wallace going, but Avon is all about, at this point, self-preservation and.
Okay, sorry. Keep going.
Avon's clearly all about self-preservation. Like you said, he didn't know who Wallace was, but if Wallace poses any type of threat, then he has to go. So Avon's about self-preservation at this point. Also, Avon in this scene is not an uncle to D'Angelo. He was very matter of fact. He was basically he told D'Angelo, or he said, the man asked you a question. So we saw scenes in the past, past episodes, early in the season. You had that love and that family with him and D'Angelo, and even when D'Angelo would fuck up, Avon be like, look, you still family. That was not the case in this scene at all. Like this was like, yo, you gotta find this dude, get rid of him so I won't end up in jail. That was Avon's energy throughout the course of this scene.
Yeah, me and you see this scene completely differently. We just completely see it fundamentally differently. I think Avon was very much an uncle in that scene, very much an uncle, and I think the way that that scene ends tells you that he's very much an uncle in that scene. Again, Stringer's the one who's pushing this. He's the one who's pushing this by none. Now he realizes and knows that since Avon's in self-preservation mode, the only one who can bring this up to D'Angelo in this way is Avon. So Stringer had to tell Avon about Wallace in order to get Avon even remotely interested in Wallace. And the reason why Avon is like, the man asked you a question is because this is Stringer's deal. This is Stringer's deal in terms of like a loose end, because we know this by the end of the episode. They say it very clearly why Stringer didn't go to jail. Come on now, we got to connect all these dots, right? So, that's where like if you watch that entire scene, D'Angelo doesn't even address Stringer. This isn't about Stringer, because left up to Stringer, Wallace is dead. He knows that.
Right.
So that's why he says to Avon, let him be. Avon, just let him be, and then he gets up and walks out. Only family in that type of environment could do that. None of the other people could tell Avon, leave it be, and then just stand up and walk out. So he's very much an uncle in this scene.
I totally understand that. Now I totally understand where you're coming from with that. I don't even disagree with that perspective.
D'Angelo's making a plea to his uncle.
Yes.
There's no reason to make a plea to Stringer, because he'd be dead in a heartbeat. Left up to Stringer. Stringer wants to kill him. Can't wait to kill Wallace. So D'Angelo's making that direct plea to Avon.
Yeah. To your point, he never acknowledged Stringer or eye contact. You're absolutely right. He didn't. He did.
No, this has nothing to do with Stringer. Stringer wants him dead. He knows Stringer wants him dead. Like that's not even, that wouldn't be a conversation.
So we stay in the club. Freeman, Signer, and Herc are in a surveillance van listening to Chardine, who is outside the office. Not with a wire. She can't hear anything because she's outside the office. So they basically get nothing out of that. Now it would lead to something down the road, but she's out, that Freeman concocted, but she's out, she keeps, messing with the wire. They're in the van. Signer and Herc are just annoying the hell out of Freeman before he snaps on them. She comes out of the van, comes out of the office, not the office. She comes out of the club into the van, says, I can't do this no more. Freeman says, you don't have to. I just need you to do one more thing. And then, of course, we'll see what that leads to. We also saw two dudes talking to one of the strippers before, while Stringer's in the office, while Avon's in the office with Stringer, and Avon reprimands the dude saying, hey, y'all motherfuckers talk too much, before they go into the office. So you had that. You have Avon, on his Avon, is, I don't say paranoid, but Avon being Avon is always careful from that standpoint. So what were your thoughts on that scene?
I thought it was a really good. It's a good setup scene.
Yeah.
I agree with your thoughts, and setting up for later on.
It's definitely setting up a lot of stuff that happens later. So Nikisha Lyles is killed. If you remember, she was the security guard that they paid off during D'Angelo's court case in episode 1. So they find her. No surprise, of course, that she was on there. She was on their hit list. You have Wallace, D'Angelo, Poot, and Bodie. So Wallace returns back from his grandmother's house from the country. We remember last episode, Pooh sent him bus money, and immediately you could just see D'Angelo, just, I mean, his facial expression told the story. Basically, he did not want Wallace back. Bodie was joking around with Wallace. They're talking about his Timbs, asking him if he got some ass down in the country, and kind of going back and forth from that standpoint, yucking it up, so to speak, at least for Bodie. But then Bodie tells Wallace that he's been demoted. Bodie tells him that he's been demoted off the money, and he's immediately, of course, overruled by D'Angelo saying that, hey, if he wants to go back on the money, he can be back on the money. But we also talked about him going back to school, and they go. Then you see Wallace, you see Bodie, not Bodie. You see D'Angelo and Wallace go their separate ways, not their separate ways, but go walk together for a scene that we'll talk about later. What were your thoughts on Wallace's return?
Yeah, just sad because you know what that means. Just sad. Yeah. Wallace should have stayed in the country.
Yeah, no question about that. McNulty, Freeman, Daniels, and Bunk. They're in the detail. They realize Bunk tells them about the security officer being killed, and so immediately they go into realizing that Avon is cleaning up, and they go to try to find Wallace and try to make some connections, some contacts in terms of where he's at. They brought up the fact now during the scene. I definitely want to get your thoughts on this. They brought up the fact that what happened to Wallace, and then they use the excuse, well, Greg's got shot. No. Greg's got shot, but y'all dropped the fucking ball on that. Let's not kid ourselves with making that out to be the reason why this kid is in the win right now. We talked about that past episodes, how much they dropped the ball on how they dealt with Wallace. But they, that's the beauty of this show. Showing you poor policing, show you all aspects of policing, good and bad and indifferent. So you have them out searching for Wallace. Now we have D'Angelo and Wallace have their conversation. D'Angelo basically says, without telling him that Stringer wants him dead, basically says, look, this game is not for you anymore. You stirred up some shit by leaving town. And he says that he didn't tell him that you should have stayed down there, but he basically tells him he basically says, look, you need to move on from this game. You need to move on from this game. And then you have Wallace Wallace basically says, this is me. This is who I am. This is me right here.
Yeah.
That was, of course, the epigraph of the episode. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. This was a very, very good scene. And it says...
Hold on. I left the part. I'm sorry. I left part two. Right. We also get introduced to Brianna Barksdale, who is, of course, the sister of Avon and the mother of D'Angelo. She gives them some fish. I forgot what they would call it, sterlings. I think sterlings. That was the name of the fish that he got. And Wallace, says, basically says, "Is that your girlfriend?" And he tells him that's his mom, and she's checking in on D'Angelo. And we'll talk more. We'll talk more about Brianna later on in the episode. So I wanted to get that part in. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean it was really good. You pretty much nailed everything. I mean, I think I just want to reiterate this is a scene, like these two characters have kind of mirrored each other. They have mirrored each other the entire series. And so you know, when you're watching this, you're just like, this is the last time these two are gonna have the conversation. It's a very emotional and wild conversation because D'Angelo's trying to say to him, go, without saying the words to him. And what Wallace is saying is, this is all I have. This is all that I know. So I can't go anywhere. It doesn't even matter. So you just kind of like, this scene encapsulates the desperation of circumstances, but you know, neither side plays it as being desperate, which is very cool to watch two actors pull off.
Yeah, I don't think in that moment D'Angelo did enough to save Wallace. He also said that, you know, you stay close to your peoples, no loose talk, no snitching. But at the same time, he knows that Stringer wants him dead. So I thought that I wanted him to go a little bit more. I wanted him to go harder with Wallace. I think I wanted him to go a little bit harder.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't think that's an inaccurate way to be thinking about it. Like, you know, why can't D'Angelo just go out and tell Wallace, they're trying to kill you, you need to go away? I think all the rules of the show and everything that we know about the characters and everything that we know about everybody's situation tells you why he can't do that. But you know, like this is not necessarily time for some. So I get that. But I just think the rules of the show have just set up where there's just no options. The choice was for Wallace never to come back. That was the option. And when he did come back, there weren't many options left for either one. There were no options left for either one of them. Because that was, you know, D'Angelo's biggest pitch to Avon and Stringer in that room was like, he's out of the game. He's out. He's gone. No eyes on him. Then he comes back. It's like, oh, what can you do? He's here.
Yeah.
He's here.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I can't argue against being like, yo, Wallace, they're gonna kill you. Run. Like this, yeah. Give me those two choices, would you rather have D'Angelo subtly talk around why you shouldn't be here? Would you rather him just tell you and you figure your life out in the next, you know, whatever? I will take the choice to just tell me they try to kill you, run, and I'll figure it out from that point. Give me that information. Give me that. I need that information. I do. In
all fairness, D'Angelo, he's also in a tough spot because he's boxed in by Stringer and Avon. So you have to be cognizant of that. That if somehow Wallace, if he does give Wallace that information, then all of a sudden Wallace disappears, fingers gonna get pointed to what did you see him? And you know Bodie and them are gonna say, yeah, D'Angelo spoke with him, so that, you know.
Can't be no lying. You can't lie.
Yeah, no, you can't. Can't lie, no. So I get why he said that, why he made that decision, not make a decision, but why he said, you know, what he said. So you have you have Daniels, Clay Davis, and Burrell. They discuss questions about they have questions for Burrell, not for Daniels, about the campaign the finance contributions for the campaign money. They talk about the money that was taken from Damian Price for his driver. And again, Daniels plays it as cool as a cucumber, basically says, we have probable cause to make that search. If you're not involved with drugs, then good. Okay. So he basically, because you got Clay Davis saying that he's not involved in drugs or anything like that or anything shady. And Daniel's like, okay. And you have Daniels basically controlled the meeting. Daniels basically said, "Is there anything else?" and walked out. It was not. I mean, he fought. You know, he fought for his squad. He didn't back down one iota from either Davis or Burrell, and basically said, kept his calm and basically made his point and stood his ground in comparisons to, say, maybe earlier in the season. You don't see that. You definitely don't see that out of Daniels. So you've seen the evolution of his character and of him as a character and him as a leader as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I absolutely love this scene. I thought this was like Daniels announcing, or the writers, the actor, and the character announcing who he was as a person, right? Because Burrell, oh no, that happens a little bit later.
No. It's not. They got one more scene.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll connect it, but it doesn't even matter because I love this scene right here, this moment, because this is Daniels announcing himself as who, like, the character he's going to be. He's not going to. I mean, I think if you tie it back in the further episodes, or episodes that we've already watched, where he's kind of struggled with the idea of, am I a police officer or am I, a police officer who's politicking for different things? I think in this scene, he laid very clearly out who he was. He was somebody who was going to play it straight by the rule book, and he's not going to take it from his peoples, and he's not going to take it from a state senator or his boss. If he like that, that's his North Star, and he announced the North Star is, I am a no nonsense, right by the rule book person, and that will land me wherever it lands me. But I am going to follow. I'm going to follow the rules, and I'm going to do it the right way.
And it landed him somewhere. We'll talk about that in a couple of episodes. He lands somewhere. So there are definitely some results that come from playing it straight.
Well, I mean, like, and it also, this isn't that's we can't understate how big a deal Keenan being shot was.
Yes.
Like, that was huge, it shifted our characters. That's also another reason. That's what really good shows do, in terms of the big moments aren't just moments just to be big. It'll be cool if a police officer got shot. Like, and it'll be cool drama. Like, no, it has to fundamentally change your characters. Daniels doesn't do that or have that disposition if Kima isn't shot, because where he's at now is he's this case is what it is, and it's about the fact that they're not only bringing in drug dealers, but somebody who tried to take out one of their own. And everybody needs to pay within the parameters of the law and what they can do. And so that was Daniels expressing that out loud, not only to the character, not only to the characters in the scene, but to all of us as well.
You have Daniels, Herc, and Freeman. Herc has come back from the sergeant's exam. Herc fully believes that he's going to be a sergeant. He, is excited about it. Says he can't wait to tell Carver. A celebration that we will find out will be short-lived, but we'll come to find out in the next episode. But he's going crazy in a good way in terms of thinking that he's going to be a sergeant. And then you heard Freeman and Daniels basically shake their heads at the thought of Herc, being a sergeant. At the thought of Herc being a sergeant. So you had that going. That I felt like that was kind of clear cut. Unless you want to add something to that.
Nope.
They also find out that Wallace is out of pocket, and he's no longer with his grandmother. So they have they find out that information as well during that scene. You have Bodie and Stringer. So Stringer comes down to the pit. He's in the Mercedes van, or Mercedes, the truck, Mercedes truck. He gets Bodie in the truck and basically gives Bodie the order to kill Wallace. Now, leading up to that, he asked Wallace's whereabouts. He asked where Wallace was at, and he kind of, tries to get a read on where Bodie's head is at as far as his commitment in terms of, asking questions like Bodie seizes the opportunity. Like, this is what Bodie, like to your point earlier, this is what Bodie has been waiting for. So he basically says, Wallace is not cut out for this. His heart pumps Kool-Aid. He tells Stringer that Wallace was down at his grandmother's house, but he's back. And he tells him that D'Angelo put him back on the money. And Avon Stringer gives the order to have Wallace killed. And there you had that with there you go with that particular scene. A lot to chew on. What were your thoughts on this scene?
It's a continuation of what we were talking about from the earlier scene. There's nothing. The dynamics are not new. This is kind of it playing out. Yeah, this is it playing out. Stringer's going to Bodie to get Bodie to kill Wallace.
Yeah, Minotti and Daniels going looking for Wallace. They go to his place where he had the electricity hooked up. They can't find him. They've moved to another spot because this definitely was not the same spot that he ended up being with in the next scene, as you have Wallace and Poop feeding the kids, and you have Wallace and Poop feeding the kids. So they moved to another spot. So you had that going on. Now to the detail. You have Freeman comes up with a plan to bug Avon's office. So he's going through with Charlene doing the kind of like a military, not military walk, but kind of a walk, taking steps, measuring her steps, blindfolded to kind of reenact how many steps there are in Avon's office or outside the office. So Freeman comes up with that plan. What are your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, I mean, it's setting up for what they need to do to get the bug into the office.
Poop and Bodie discuss Wallace. Bodie telling Poop that he's gotten an order from Stringer. Poop, of course, is reluctant, but then actually contributes by saying that he saw Wallace get high. He contributes without even knowing it. Says he saw Wallace cop get high, and then Bodie says, well, if he's getting high, then he's definitely not to be trusted. Now, in this, it seemed like it was a situation where Bodie, and I think it aligns perfectly with how that scene played out. We'll talk about the scene. But Bodie was like, damn, this is something we have to do. It's not like I didn't get a sense that Bodie was excited to do it. It was just something like he basically said, he told Pooh, not basically said, this is the game. This is the game. But you can see I thought it was good, some foreshadowing as far as Bodie was kind of reluctant, not as reluctant as Pooh, but kind of a little bit with his body language. What were your thoughts on that conversation?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure both of them were reluctant. Because at this point in time, uh, that's this is their first kill. So I'm sure both of them are nervous at a certain point, and it's somebody that they know well. On top of that, uh, so yeah, I mean it's a great scene because it kind of like what a lot of shows wouldn't take the time to do is to just pause just for a second on how the triggermen are actually feeling about what's going on, like the why they have to do it and how they're feeling about how to do that. A lot of shows wouldn't take that time unless it was like a main character. And so that was very cool. To just take that moment with them.
So you have Perlman, Daniels, and Freeman discussing the campaign financial investigations. Perlman lets them, ask them about it. Freeman basically says, we didn't, it was best that you did not know. Perlman wasn't upset. To your point earlier, she was just blindsided by not knowing, but she wasn't, once she found out, she wasn't upset at them about it. She just basically told them that you got some people in our office, little, on edge and nervous about those campaign finance investigations and what have you. What were your thoughts on that exchange?
This is kind of building off what we were talking about. It's kind of coming together of the like what Daniels believes, and then like what this unit will be about, and what her role in this unit will be about. I think the reason why it wasn't like an upset. We know the relationship Perlman and Daniels have in one place, and then in the second one, it is very matter of fact. If somebody has done something wrong, then they will be charged, versus if they haven't done anything wrong. And so I think there's a unstated or implicit trust especially between Perlman and Daniels, is that if this is happening, and then Daniels trusts Freeman, of course, if this is going down this way, it's because there's action, there's dirt that's there.
Yeah. Wallace, Bodie, and Poop, they meet up at a sandwich shop. Wallace discussing about what they're going to do later on. Bodie kind of comes at Wallace a little bit, as far as saying that, you're talking about kid stuff, or you're talking, not kid stuff, you're talking about your mom. Says, are you a boy or a man? Says, are you a boy or are you a man? And Wallace says he's a man. Wallace comes back at Bodie saying, why you have to be hard all the time. And Bodie's retort was, weak link breaks the chain. That was, I believe, his direct quote. And you have them, knowing, him and Putin knowing that they're going to eventually kill him. You have them leaving out the sandwich shop. What did you think about that exchange?
What happens next? Are they going directly into the
No.
Okay. All right, so that's not the meeting next thing. Okay. I was going to see if I was going to wait to wait for that one to talk about this. I can talk about this separately. The scene is, in my mind's eye, is mostly about Bodie, particularly Bodie, but Poot to some degree, trying to steel themselves up to do this deed. And so the back and forth is a conversation between them, yes, but it's also Bodie hunting for the justification to steal himself up to pull that trigger. So he's trying to figure out how he can mentally do this at this point in time.
So he's trying. You think he was trying to just toughen himself up that much more, and make himself that much like.
I mean, it's in a very what is like
psych himself
in
out.
a very real, no, yeah, in a very real sense, right? Like, you know, they say, why do people bully people? Why they look down at everything at other people, and you tear other people down to make yourself feel stronger. So he's tearing Wallace down in order to steal himself up to take that shot. Wallace he's you know, all the different types of things he's saying. His heart pumps Kool-Aid. He's not built for this. If you're not built for this, you could potentially be a traitor, blah, 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 blah. Like, all the stuff is his own rationalization that's coming out in this conversation.
Yeah. So you have Chardine, Freeman, Herc, and Prez. She gives them the coordinates of the floor of Avon's office. So then you have Herc, Freeman, and Daniels in that office. They're drilling. Herc is drilling to set up to plant the bug in Avon's office. So that you have that going on. Then McNulty comes in and lets Daniels know that they got a fresh address on Wallace's mom. And Daniels heads out and leaves Herc, Prez, and Freeman. How about Freeman, man? Freeman is like, we didn't give. This was his idea, but like the scene that set this up in terms of this whole entire idea was the fact that he basically called out the detail for being draft dodging peace freaks. He said when he back in the detail when he was concocting this whole scheme in regards to he said, do you guys understand what a military quick tie or something like that is? So he clearly had done some time in the service that allows him to even come up with a plan like this, because they were stuck in terms of Chardine being able to get anywhere near that office. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is, I mean, like, if you look at it structurally for the episode, this is the mounting tension. Like, we're getting the drum beat is beating faster, right? Like, they're about to put a bug in Avon's space. Wallace, we don't know where Wallace is. They're running around for there. I mean, we know, as the viewers know, Wallace. The police finally find out that they don't know where Wallace is, that Wallace is missing. And so there's an intensity there. So when you look at it like this scene in the structure of the episode is to continue that building of intensity towards the final pieces.
So we get to the scene that is one of the most regarded in the history of the show. You have Wallace, Bodie, and Poop. The kids are Wallace's kids are nowhere to be found. Of course, they go back to Wallace's place. He heads up. He's looking for them. He thinks that they're going to be around. I'm assuming that Poop did something to get rid of them, as far as not something bad, but as far as making sure that they were not going to be there. I think Poop took care of that myself. So Wallace heads upstairs, and he's ahead of Bodie, he's ahead of Poop, and you see Bodie goes ahead of Poop. They're going up the stairs, and I'm gonna put an emphasis up. I'm gonna put an emphasis for a scene down the line in this episode. They're going up the stairs, and you see Poop kind of hesitate, and then Bodie gives him a head nod, like "Let's go," without saying anything. Just nods his head forward. So they go in to the room. They corner Wallace. And then you have Poop, not Poop, you have Bodie pull out a gun, basically says, you should have stayed in the country. Wallace, of course, begs for his life. and you know, pees in his pants, begs for his life, and again, Bodie, to you know, typical of Bodie, says, you know, stand up like a man. You said you were a man. Stand up like a man. You pissing in your pants. And Bodie hesitates before he pulls the trigger. Matter of fact, to a point to where Pooh had to say, if you're going to do it, then do it. So he basically has to push Bodie towards pulling the trigger. He takes Bodie takes one shot, and then Pooh takes the gun and finishes Wallace off with 2 shots. And I found that interesting from the standpoint of it was Pooh that had to push Bodie towards to doing it, and the fact that Pooh wants his hands dirty as well. Like he kind of takes some of the brunt off Bodie in terms of any type of guilt that's going to be felt. So that was interesting to me from that standpoint. What were your thoughts?
That's an interesting read. I hadn't thought about it in that way before. I think that the the way in which this is kind of shot and acted, it's meant to be what it is, very just super, super, super tragic, right? And so I think everything that they did was to spell out that tragedy. The only thing that I would say to add into everything, because you laid it out pretty thoroughly, is that when this show was doing this for the first time, there weren't scenes like this that existed in television. So this is a big deal for a reason. It didn't look like this. You know, The Sopranos was popping at that point in time. And of course The Sopranos did like a lot of like murders and things like that. But in terms of kind of showing the impact that it has on the people who have to initiate the boss's order, and not in a way that is like super confident, because of course that happens in the mafia mythos and everything like that. You need somebody on the inside, somebody who's really close to kill the person, but it rarely focuses on what that does, what toll that takes on the person who actually has to commit that act. And so that's what I appreciate. Everything you said, absolutely. And that's why I appreciate the scene so much, because it pulls out those details of both and Poop and the emotions and the feelings and the interactions they're going through, having to pull this off for the very first time in their criminal careers.
Yeah, a couple things came to mind when you were just talking. Number one, these kids will never be the same in terms of Bodie and Poop. Now we'll see what the ramifications of their actions prove for them, even in the next episode. We'll see. We'll see that. But they won't be the same. And also, to your point about the humanity aspect and about just showing that first kill, it kind of reminded me of 2 things. It reminded me of The Godfather, when Michael Corleone shot the police captain in Salazzo, and how it took you through his mindset with his first kill.
Well, yeah, that's why I said TV. Movies have done it plenty of times, because you stay on character. They had things such as anti-heroes. Remember, before The Sopranos and then The Wide Short, like this, we're in it so much now, we forget how groundbreaking this stuff truly was.
That didn't happen. You didn't see on TV. No, absolutely didn't happen. No, look, I had to compare it to, like, arguably the greatest movie of all time. So that lets you know the level of the storytelling from that standpoint, and just how carefully these scenes were developed and paced out. So I thought about that when I thought about like, yeah, this was like television, like this whole idea where you just come in, shoot them, have no emotion, like no, that's not even real life. Like this,
Well, TV at that point in time, again, I mean,
TV was doing,
you got to
TV.
give Sopranos all the credit in the world for making this into a thing, but TV was not for empathizing with the villain. Like that was not a place where it's TV's all about heroes, what the heroes are doing, and how the good guys are making out, right? Like that, it was very simplified in that aspect. And The Sopranos opened it up, and The Wire took it in a very different direction, just because the topics they wanted to cover. But in this aspect, Sopranos and The Wire are very much in lockstep in terms of we spent enough time with Bodhi and Poot to actually care about. That's also the big thing. Other shows didn't spend that amount of time with the characters. You can show, a character who just committed a heinous act being upset about it, but if we, as the audience, don't have any history with that character, we won't care. And so you have to put the time and the effort to build up your quote unquote your bad guys or whatever to be real humans, of course, so that we actually care about how they think and feel about this reprehensible act under any other circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, you like to your point, you walked away from the scene, right? Obviously, you're feeling terrible for Wallace. Like, damn, Wallace is dead. This is heartbreaking. But I didn't walk away from the scene at all angry or disappointed about the actions of Bodhi or Poot, even from the first time I saw it, or even now, about almost 20 years later. I felt, my thought was like, damn, these kids are just they will never be the same. Like this is going to affect them, even moving forward for that. In terms of that, for them committing that action. So I think that's that. To your point, that's the depth of the layers of these the Wire gives these characters. So you have Daniels and McNulty going to the door of Wallace's mother, who's an alcoholic. She says he owes her. She hasn't seen him in God knows when. She says that he owed her $10, and again gave you some insight in terms of how bad gave you some insight to his upbringing, of course, but did not add anything to their investigation as far as she wasn't helpful at all. She just had no clue in terms of where they were, where he was at. So you had that going on. Want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay. Avon, his bodyguard, Freeman Prez. So the bug has been planted. They're watching, at this point, they're surveilling what Avon is doing. So Prez and Freeman realize that Avon is moving, and they immediately get frustrated by that. But that turns quickly as Avon tells. First of all, Avon berates his bodyguard, saying, which was kind of funny, saying how y'all saying y'all got the safe in, but y'all can't get the motherfucker out, basically. So he was talking to them about that. But then he tells D'Angelo that he needs to make this run up to New York. Make this run to New York that night, and he's basically the only one that he can trust to make that type of run. D'Angelo reluctantly, and I mean reluctantly, makes that run. You got a sense in that scene that D'Angelo wanted no part of making that run whatsoever, and we'll find out why. But Avon, to your point, and we'll discuss this later, and when we talk about the scene with Avon and his sister, he he's being an uncle from this standpoint, and he tells, from the standpoint of trusting D'Angelo to make that run to get more product so that they can maintain the towers. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, like you said everything. This is structurally how they're finishing out the episode.
Poop gets his girl to call the cops to let them know that basically let them know that Wallace has been shot. Of course, he doesn't use names. He says that, tell them that an animal has been wounded and what have you. So you had that going on. Bunk finds Wallace's body, and immediately is devastated. Even though I don't believe he ever even met Wallace, but just there, you got the sense that even in that short scene, it was well played, well acted by Wendell Pierce. You get the sense that he felt like, damn, we let this kid down. Like for somebody that didn't have a relationship, with Wallace, he's just, he's kind of devastated by it, even in that short time period of the scene. What were your thoughts on
that? Yeah, I like exactly yes, that was exactly it. How they let Wallace down. That's where that emotion was coming from.
You have Herc, Daniels, and Signer. They plant a tracking device on D'Angelo's car, under D'Angelo's car. D'Angelo, we would find out, will take forever in getting changed and what have you in his apartment. So you had that going on. That's a setup to a later scene that we'll get to. Freeman, back at the Avon's, back at the building across from that's close to Avon's office, notices a rehab center being built where the Barksdales own property. So he sees there's a headline that says $250 million of grant money to housing. And we find out, I did a little more extra research on this, found out that this actually was going to be a rehab center that's going to be built where the Barksdales own property. What were your thoughts on that revelation?
Yeah. This is, I mean, like Freeman's putting together the perspective of the property and stuff. I mean, like it's I'm talking around stuff because they're setting things up for season 3 now. Like they're laying the next foundation. So it's hard to talk about this without talking about that.
No question about it. Yeah, these are the breadcrumbs for further seasons, without question. You have Daniels and McNulty waiting for D'Angelo to still come out. D'Angelo takes forever. Remember, it was daytime when they set that they set that device in his car. Now it's nighttime. He took the entire time just to get changed, to get his clothes to get changed or what have you. They find out that that Wallace is dead, and then immediately McNulty says that means Stringer is out of the box. So you had that going. You had that with that particular scene, and then of course we have McNulty, D'Angelo, Daniels. All right, do you want to say anything about that?
No. We're connecting them all together.
So then of course they pull over D'Angelo. He makes the run to New York. He comes back. Not to Baltimore, but he makes the run. They follow him, of course. He was in New York for like 23 minutes, and then they know he has stuff of course, the stuff is in the trunk. He gets stopped and pulled over, and then, of course, you see Daniels, McNulty, Harbor, and Signer come out the car, and that leads us into the interrogation scene where you have McNulty, D'Angelo, and Daniels. Now, D'Angelo is playing, is playing it smart in the beginning. Basically says, lawyer, I'm not saying anything until Levy gets here. Playing it smart, playing it cool. And they have, and at that point, of course they have the stuff that, they had the drugs they have that on him, of course. So they have that charge on him. But he's giving them nothing else at this point. And McNulty said something very interesting that I found interesting. He says, he tells D'Angelo, you're not the one who fucked up. And then McNulty tells D'Angelo that Wallace was shot and was shot and killed. And that, of course, changes D'Angelo's entire mindset, which we'll see play out later on in the episode. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is an awesome scene. I encourage everybody to check out just kind of like after McNulty says that to D'Angelo, watch what the actor does and like the way like the facial progressions that he goes through. Very cool stuff. On top of that, again, it's hard to talk about without talking about other stuff. What the police were trying to get across in a couple different ways, right? So what they want from D'Angelo, of course, is they want to flip him over for other people, right? So the two ways to do that is to break that bond with the Barksdale organization. Not the two ways to do it. The way that they're showing it, the two ways that they're showing it was to your point, they're not fucked up. Like, this is nothing that they can pin on you. We had all of y'all. Basically, that's what he's trying to say. We have all of y'all airtight, locked down. Like, we know all this stuff. So, got anything what you did. You did everything correctly in terms of driving and everything. You were dead the moment you got into that car, essentially. And then the second thing is then, of course, the emotional pieces that McNulty knows that he can play on D'Angelo, because he proved it earlier on in the season that D'Angelo can be emotionally manipulated. So then he drops the Wallace thing on him, try to see if they can rattle him.
Yeah, the Wallace thing was a perfect mic drop for McNulty. That was the way to end that interrogation without question. Just to let that kind of sift and marinate in D'Angelo's head at the end of that scene. So you have Avon and Brianna at Brianna's place. Brianna basically just rips into Avon, saying that, how could you send him out there without a trap car? She now, initially, when we first met Brianna, Brianna gets introduced in this episode. This is her first episode of the season, of the series and of the season. Initially, you're thinking that this is just a mother, an overprotective mom who is emotional. Her son's been arrested for like the second time, by the way, because remember, he beat a charge earlier in the season. And you figure, okay, she's taking it too far as how she's coming at Avon. But then when she brings up the trap car, first of all, you learn that she knows her shit from that standpoint, and that and I will ask you, was she right to call out Avon? Did Avon drop the ball with this decision?
I mean, like, so here's what I'll say. In this circumstance, think about where we are in the season. This isn't the time for well-crafted, thought-provoking well thought out plans. Avon's reacting to what's going on. And the way the scenes are being built they're being built with tremendous consequences attached to them, because that's the point that we're at in the show. Now, if something like this would have happened in episode 1, before they know about the investigation, stash house, or everything like that, then I could be like, yeah. But at the point where Avon is making that decision, he makes it clear that he's doing it because he doesn't feel like there's anybody that he can trust, and there's no product to hold the towers because their stash house, the main house got the main stash house got raided. Right. I think Brianna's role is just very simple in this. She's an upset mother. That just, it doesn't matter what profession or whatever, she's an upset mother. So she's not thinking initially in any other terms other than my child got arrested and is about to go to jail.
Right.
Because as we know, we don't even have to go do the right, wrong, whatever, indifferent. As we know, they had them dead to rights because they have a video in their office.
Right.
So,
yes.
He could have had all the track car, whatever mom was talking about at that point in time. It wouldn't have mattered because they already had everything.
Yeah, no, they knew nothing about.
They could have pulled him over at any point in time.
Yeah,
and he would have been done.
They knew nothing about.
The moment he entered that car, he was done.
It was a wrap. But my question to you would be, getting back to Avon.
That's why I said, think about where we're at in the show, at what point of the season we're at as well.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. Why do you think Avon says, now this is his organization, bears his name, why does he say, you're the only one I could trust?
To Brianna or to
D'Angelo? Going back to
because he's his cousin. I mean, he's his nephew. He says kin, family.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know why he wanted him on there, but even him to say that you're the only one I can trust right now was
what he specifically says was, I only know this because I just watched the episode, was I feel like there's not a lot of people that I can trust right now.
Yeah, that's a big statement. Like,
yeah, because it's raining down from everywhere, and again, you gotta separate out what the audience knows versus what the character knows. He doesn't know everything we know in terms of how this is all happening to him. Like, the stuff hasn't even been written up to a point where Levy has the documents and can say, because when they're sitting down and talking in Orlando's, they're trying to figure it out, but they don't know the why. They don't know what's going on. Nobody knows about the wire. Because remember, again, this is the first time anything like this is being done in Baltimore. This is what the case the show is making. So they have no clue. He has no clue what's coming down on him, because nothing like this has been attempted before. Sidner says it at the end.
Right. Yeah. So you have okay. Yes. D'Angelo, Stringer, and Levy. D'Angelo says it wasn't me who fucked up. Before he even gets into asking about Wallace, he says it wasn't me who fucked up. Stringer's retort was, so he basically said, so then why the fuck are we here then? And then you have him going to the famous, where the fuck is Wallace? Where's Wallace?
Yep.
And then you have Stringer and Levy. Levy basically says, basically tries to give D'Angelo, tries to warn D'Angelo, like, hey, watch what you're about to say. But at this point, D'Angelo is done because he knows Stringer. He at this point is connected to dots that Wallace is. It's just been implanted in his head that Wallace is dead, and he knows Stringer is the one that had Wallace killed. So he done with Wallace. He's done with Levy at this point. He calls in for another lawyer, calls in for another lawyer to get to represent him, and they leave. Both Levy and Stringer leave the room. What are your thoughts on this scene?
I mean, like this, you know, this is one of the. I love this scene. I love this scene. This is one of the most iconic scenes in the Wire. It's a hell of a scene. It's just a hell of a scene. Well acted, well directed, well written, all of it.
So when he says, "It wasn't me who fucked up," and then Stringer says, "Well, why the fuck are we here?"
Yeah.
Stringer blaming him for.
You gotta think about how that with the Wire, you cannot isolate pieces. That's not how this show works. The show builds upon itself. So in the organization, like Avon and Stringer are taking care of all the big details, and then organizationally, when something happens, they blame the individuals because it has to be on you. That's how they've always interacted with all their guys. Like, if something goes wrong, what did you do first? And that's what D'Angelo's saying to him, and it's tied in to the Nolte thing and everything like that. Is like what they have been trying. Think about what him and Springer have been talking about, this whole how to smoke out the snitch. There's no snitch. It's right. A wire. Again, we know what they don't know. And we have to separate that out. They have no idea about a wire. They have no conception, no concept that this is happening to them in this way. Everything they've done has been out of abundance of caution because they keep running into police everywhere. So they know something's wrong. They don't know what's wrong. So what Avon and what Stringer do is they blame you individually way before they'll ever get to the point of such and such is happening, right? So that's why he's initially saying, it wasn't me. I ain't fuck up. I did everything right.
Yeah.
Because he knows they're going to blame him first.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got we go to Daniels and Burrell part 3. He tells Burrell that he knows about the snitch that was feeding him the information. Of course, Burrell wants the case wrapped up, and Daniels basically calls Burrell's bluff to expose him. He says, quote, "You rather live in shit than let the world see you work a struggle." So this is the scene that you have been.
Yeah. That was the verbal part of the manifesto of Daniels on this one. That was literally that's his mission statement as a character. And so like he's letting him know, like you, and this is the complete transformation, right? I don't care what you have on me. You can put that out there. I'm still going to do the right thing. Period. That is who I am, and that's who I will be going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he got the best of Burrell in all three scenes. I mean, he got just outmaneuvering them, just out. He was, it was brilliant how he played all three scenes in which they were in. Now we go on to another big scene. So you have Avon, Stringer, Daniels, and McNulty. First, Avon, Stringer. Of course, they had the video cameras. They have cameras. They see outside. Avon basically, taunts the police. Says, "Look at these Delta Force motherfuckers." He's waiting to be arrested. He gets Stringer to take the money out the safe. He had $150,000 in the safe. Says no reason to ruin a good safe. Stringer lets him know about Levy, that Levy's gonna meet him down there. And you have McNulty and Daniels, who agree with Avon that SWAT, it was a little too much to be arresting these two dudes who are not armed and who haven't touched a gun. In McNulty says in years, probably in years. So you have McNulty and Daniels go upstairs. Very interesting dynamic. Probably the only time in the series where all four of those guys were in one scene at the same time, I want to say. Daniels is staring directly at Stringer the entire time. McNulty looks around the room, I guess sees the money, and then they both, Stringer and Avon, turn to get in a position where they're about to be arrested. They put their hands behind their backs, and you see Stringer McNulty only Avon gets arrested, and Stringer, and he gives McNulty. Avon gives Stringer a curious, a surprised look, because he expected that they both were going to get arrested. Then you see McNulty say to Stringer, "Catch you later." They head downstairs. Now, Daniels and Avon are headed out, are way ahead of McNulty. So Stringer's still left in the room. McNulty looks inside the room and pauses, and then you see Daniels, as he's already downstairs, gives him a head nod, as similar, very not kind of parallel this scene to the Bodie Poot scene, similar to what Bodie gave Poot, and saying, "Let's go," without saying anything, with just a head nod, and McNulty heads down. A lot going on in this scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is consequences, right? Like this is the culmination of this entire effort that has gone in, right? Like everybody has pretty much said it. Like until this was brought up by McNulty, no one actually like gave like too much about this case. It was about the parts of it and all the different battles. And in this episode, everything kind of like comes together. And so I think what's significant about having all four of them in that scene together is you kind of have the visual representation of the cops who are using this advanced way or much deeper technique and getting, you know, for all intents and purposes, getting the people they were after all this time and all this paperwork, all this everything like that. And it was very telling that it didn't have to be a shootout or anything like that or whatever. From a storytelling perspective, and just from kind of like what the show The Wire states many times that it's going to be, improves many times that it's going to be. It's not going to just do stuff for show. Other shows would have had some kind of splashy shootout at the very end and something weird like that happen. I.e. Quentin Tarantino. But there was no need for that. And as a matter of fact, most raids and things like that, you know, don't go down in that way. And so everything, the way that everything in that scene makes 100% sense. Which is why The Wire is The Wire.
What were your thoughts on McNulty hesitating before he headed downstairs?
I didn't have any thoughts on that in particular.
This was the first scene that, and to my knowledge, and maybe you can correct me if you have any other recollections, that they did these parallel scenes with the cops and with the street. This scene again was similar to the Bodie Poot Wallace scene, with the difference, obviously the outcome Well, I mean, similar outcomes from the standpoint of it was the death of Wallace and sort of not the complete death of the Barksdales, but a kind of death of the Barksdales with Avon getting arrested. You have Pook and Bodie headed up the stairs. You have Daniels and McNulty headed down the steps. What did you make out of anything in regards to those scenes? Any symbolism from that standpoint? Do you take anything away from that?
If I'm going to take something away, then it's the emotional resonance of each of the scenes, right? So if you're talking about like what the writers and what people would have been trying to get out of those two scenes is in both of those cases there's a lot of nerves and anxiety that evolves around them, right? On one end you got Poot and Bodie and they're about to kill one of their good friends. On the other end you have Daniels and McNulty who've been chasing this group for so long and have wrapped up so much emotional, political, everything capital into this case. And so in one instance, it's just kind of like we gotta do this. So we got still ourselves to do this with Bodie and Poot. And on the other end of it, it's just kind of like a relief, like aspect of like, we really did this. We actually really put the handcuffs on Avon Barksdale. And so I think like if you want to look at similarities between those two scenes, then you want to dive into the emotions behind those two scenes, behind the characters in those scenes.
So you have Freeman, Perez, and Signer. Of course, Freeman posted an article about the Housing Development Rehab Center. He posted on the board. Signer mentions that they give the updates on that Avon's been arrested. Signer, of course, mentions that this is the best police work that he's ever done because he's about to be cut loose and sent back to his regular assignment. So you had that going on. And then the final scene is the pit being completely empty, where again, they had no drugs. That was there, so they had no drugs. But I also thought that there was a underlying message with the empty orange couch. No Bodie. I mean, no Wallace. No D'Angelo. No Bodie. No Poop. Go ahead. What were your thoughts on how the episode ended?
I want to go back to the Signer comment because that was a big one for me. Like you could split it in both ways, right? Like when I'm initially watching it and I'm hearing him talk, the sense that I get is that what he's saying was the amount of effort and thought and like everything that we had to do didn't even put a dent in the drug game, right? So there's that common theme that's going to replay itself over and over this series and just over and over in life in general, is that you can go after one crew, put all this time and energy into it, and you'll get the members of that crew, but the game is the game, and it will keep existing outside that. So that's one way. The second way is what I was talking about earlier in terms of the complexity and the strategy that had to be put involved in to get the Barksdale crew. It's just like the show makes it very clear that the way that they see policing done at that time in 2003 is that it's a lot of quick rips for statistics or for a very short game. Again, they'll talk way more about this later on. And so just like seeing Signer just sit back in awe of the work that he's done also brings to light how underutilized this resource was.
Yeah. He said, yes, it's the best police work I've ever done. what were your thoughts on any thoughts on about the pit being empty?
Oh yeah, the pit's done. Yeah. I mean, like the shot makes sense in terms of the episode because the Barksdale crew is gone. That is what that shot said to me. The Barksdale crew, as we knew it, is gone. So Pitt is dead. D'Angelo's gone. Wallace is dead. Bodie and Poot are the ones who did it. So the Pit is the reason why nobody's around is because everybody's all jacked up.
Yeah. Yeah, the episode title with cleaning up, and you can look at it like with the obvious, cleaning up. The Barksdales wanting to clean house in regards to getting rid of witnesses or anybody that would tie them into that would tie them up in terms of getting arrested or going to jail, something like that. Anything. So you had that aspect of it to get rid of Wallace, to get rid of Lakeisha Lyles, but also Daniels going to your point, going completely clean at this point. He's completely clean. So you can tie that into it. You had the Barksdales cleaning out their old offices, going. We'll see next episode where they end up going. So yeah, that tied up as well into it. MVP, best performance. Who was your MVP?
I am splitting the difference. Okay, I'm gonna go with MVP's D'Angelo.
Wow. Oh, wow. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I have to explain this.
Yes.
Because D'Angelo, I mean, this is essentially a D'Angelo and Wallace episode. Wallace is going to be my under the other award. And so D'Angelo just had the more powerful moments. That's the thing that split it for me in terms of his interaction with Avon, let him be, and then the interaction with Stringer, where he is where he's like, where's Wallace? And like I said, like there is no finer acting job than watching watching his face, D'Angelo's face after McNulty tells him Wallace is dead. There's no quick reaction to it at all, and there's no resolution that comes to. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
So I guess you had him as best performance as well, right?
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm splitting it, then the other part goes to Wallace. Like the scene with D'Angelo. Oh, that's another D'Angelo and Wallace where they're talking to each other, and what Wallace is trying to express that this is just who I am. Very good stuff. And then the second, I mean, just the entire like Michael B. Jordan, Wallace has to be innocent, Babe in the Woods, in a very non-innocent dynamic that's happening right now, which is interesting to play, and he did it very, very well. I enjoyed his performance. So that's how it split it. D'Angelo, just because he had the most powerful lines, but Wallace right there.
MVP, I had Daniels. I think he just, again, those three scenes where he just eviscerates Burrell, goes toe-to-toe with Clay Davis, makes that transformation to being just, complete, just doing it, being all in on the case and doing it in some ways his way, or the right way, I should say. I thought he was and his leadership, really from start to finish. He checks McNulty at the hospital, and then even with the scene at when they arrested Avon, tells McNulty like, let's go. Like, what are you doing? Not to say McNulty was going to do anything, but just kind of booking that. I thought that was a good bookend with his interactions with McNulty. Best performance, you had me change my mind. I had Bodie, but yeah, it was D'Angelo was the best performance as far as performance acting. It's he was tremendous in the scene. Bodie was good though. Bodie was my runner-up. I thought Bodie's transformation as a teenage boy, into a full-out now gangster, and even his humane moments where didn't want to kill Wallace, was reluctant. It wasn't like he showed dimensions that we had, that he showed some humane dimensions that we hadn't seen this season. We normally see Bodie hardcore, just pure soldier. This one, he kind of showed you, I don't want to say a soft side, but a side that you have to remind us that he was only playing a 16-year-old kid. So I thought he was tremendous. But by the way, without question, D'Angelo's was the best actor in this episode, without question. Gave the best performance in this episode. So I agree with you from that standpoint. It's gonna be interesting to see who's gonna be MVP of the season. Daniel's made a strong push with this episode. It's gonna be interesting when we wrap up episode 13. Who's the MVP for the season? I probably have in mind who it is, but
Yeah, I have no idea. I'll let it happen as I see.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on this episode?
Great episode.
No, without question, it was. This episode, again, the payoffs and some of the breadcrumbs that they're gonna leave, that they gave you with the political stuff, was brilliant. But the payoff, we saw a lot again. We saw a lot of the payoffs of police, of great police work, and also some mistakes in terms of what happened to Wallace. So they gave you a nice balance of that. And just how, again, I loved how they parallel those scenes with Wallace, with Bodie, Pooh, and then Avon and Daniel Stringer. And I thought they did a tremendous job with those scenes and showing you that. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Wire Remix. As always, thanks to Robert Sapp for joining us.
All right, appreciate you. Stay safe, stay healthy out there.
Absolutely. You too, man. See you later.
Later.
Of course, thanks to Robert Sapp for joining the episode. Want to say again, rest in peace to Rashard Brooks. Again, just tragic situation to say the least. Definitely could have, without question, been avoided. I will have more on that in the episode coming up. We're going to do some podcasts on what's going on in around the country coming up this week. Also going to talk some NBA as well. We've got a lot going on with that. I will see you next time on this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I'm out.